Sergeant is Cadet Second Lieutenant Kyle Cropper.
Have to drive around to find
Gentlemen,
know where it's at.
please remove your caps, and would everybody please remain standing as the national anthem is presented by the Stohill High School Woodwind Ensemble.
Hold on, and breathe, then. Hold.
I got pictures. It doesn't do very good. I can't get in that close.
Gentlemen, please put on your caps. Class of 2011, please make sure that your tassels are on the left side of your cap in anticipation for the acceptance of your diplomas. Would everyone please be seated?
Who's it coming?
I can't. That's all. You should have brought the other camera. I could.
The camera's stuck. Good job.
On behalf of the Stowe High School class of 2011, I would like to welcome you to our graduation ceremony. I'm sure that my classmates join me in thanking our parents, teachers, family, and friends for the guidance and support they have given us and the patience they have shown in our journey to this moment, an end to one chapter of our lives and the beginning of the next. As we sit here tonight, reflecting on the past and looking to the future, we are reminded of all that has brought us to this place. I would like to say to my classmates who are sitting here tonight with a funny little square piece of carpet on their head, thank you. Thanks for the fight, the bonds that we have formed, the team effort, the assignments, the laughter, the cheers, the proms, the photos, the good, the bad, and the things we'd rather not discuss. Together they have made us who we are as a group and as individuals. Tonight we come together one final time to celebrate all that we have been and all that we will become. We are honored that each of you has chosen to join us for evening ceremony.
Mama, see that? See that, Mama? See that?
Classmates and family members, the day we have all anxiously awaited is finally here. For those of you sitting in the audience, you have diligently counted down the weeks, days, and even hours right alongside the students sitting on stage tonight.
Hey, Mama.
But for most of you, the past 4 years of high school flew by, and before we all knew it, your sons and daughters have come to find themselves sitting next to one another, in their caps and gowns with their futures right around the corner. Tonight, it is an honor for me to be surrounded by such ambitious and talented students as my fellow classmates of the class of 2011. The commencement exercises that we will take part in tonight mark a huge milestone for all of us. There is a good reason that tonight's ceremony is called a commencement exercise. For graduation is not the ending, but in fact the beginning of one of the most exciting journeys of our lives. Not just for the students, but for the parents also. Yet despite the elation and celebrations that are bound to take place, graduation is a tough day for those mothers, fathers, and parent figures from our lives that are sitting in the audience. They have come to the ceremony as full-time parents, a job that entitled them to play the parts of chauffeur, caterer, maid, nurse, teacher, therapist, cheerleader, and many others. You name it, they've done it. A parent is defined as one who nurtures and raises a child. But for the class of 2011, this has never been limited to just our moms and dads. Our lives have been influenced by a countless number of parent figures, ranging from aunts and uncles to grandmas and grandpas, and even to cousins, siblings, and close friends. Even if they haven't attended every single school event, they have been there for us after hours to listen to what's new and exciting at school and give us guidance as we made our way through life's many trials and tribulations as we have progressed from childhood into young adulthood. When we were in elementary school, our parents chased away the monsters from under the bed, stole us straight from the playground with a kiss, and cheered us on our field day. They watched as we showed off the electric slide and learned for the retro dance in 3rd grade, and attended all of the Tupley shows. In middle school, these shows turned into band and chorus concerts that our parents watched proudly, and the retro dance turned into Friday night dances that our parents took us to every month. Instead of attending field days, our parents braved the rain on a boat in Annapolis and the cold wind of the National Mall in Washington, D.C. as chaperones to class trips. They learned alongside of us as we worked our way through VCRs, MSAs, and algebra and HSAs. They stayed up late, which in those days only meant 10 p.m., to help us finish our element models for 8th grade science and put together our costumes as we memorized our lines for our 7th grade ILA class reenactment of A Christmas Carol. They prepared shoes for 8th grade dress-up days and watched us at our 8th grade graduation as we prepared to move on to our final years of school. High school put our parents to the test as after-school meetings, extracurricular activities, and fundraisers turned our parents into chauffeurs that were only a phone call away when you needed them. And not just for their own son or daughter, but for all of their friends, too. They became our cheerleaders that filled the bleachers at every game and the shoulder to cry on when we dropped a hardball match. The rain and wind that our parents braved during middle school field trips couldn't even compete with the frigid temperatures of annual Christmas parade. Yet there was always a never-ending wall on the sidewalk at every parade, and those same parents packed the auditorium for every band and chorus concert. Homecomings, proms, and banquets of all kinds attracted moms and their cameras as they documented every moment of our last years together. During senior year, college application and scholarship deadlines made for a long night spent with our parents typing up essays and filling out packet upon packet of applications. Nothing says quality bonding time quite like typing up an essay at 1 o'clock in the morning. But it is times like those that we won't soon forget. So tonight we thank you, the parents of the class of 2011. Without you, we would not be the young adults who be sitting on the stage tonight. Even though we may not always acknowledge it, we appreciate everything you have done for us. We thank you for all the support you have provided with us, for all the time you have dedicated to us, for all the advice and guidance we have received from you, and for all the obligations you gave us to always be there for us every step of the way. But most importantly, we thank you for all the unconditional love and care you have given us over the past 17 years. And to my fellow classmates, I leave you with these words imparting from one of my very favorite books. I hope your dreams take you to the corners of your smiles, to the highest of your hopes, to the windows of your opportunities, and to the most special places your heart has ever known. Thank you.
To everyone in the class of 2011, the day we've all been waiting for is finally here. Tonight you walk across the stage and receive that coveted piece of paper that is our diploma. So much hard work and determination went into achieving this honor. But before we receive our diplomas, it is important to remember and appreciate the opportunities that we have been afforded over the past 13 years. We have been lucky to be able to learn in a safe and caring environment with teachers devoted to our success. Not everyone in this world has access to the high-quality education that we have received. Therefore, we must then again thank all the educators that we have had throughout this journey. We are here because of them. But we are also here because of each other. I personally feel that one of the reasons why so many of us are on stage tonight is because of our sense of community. Recently, I found an old yearbook from 2000. As I flipped through the pages of us as smiling first graders, I was struck by the number of faces that I still saw every day. Most of our class has stayed intact from the very beginning. The amount of time that we have spent together has made us feel much like a family. But it's not just the length of time that we have been together that fosters this sense of community. It is our small size, too. With a class as small as ours, it is difficult for someone to become lost in the mix. Whenever a new kid came, it did not take long for them to be absorbed into our community. While some say that such a small community has its disadvantages, it is ultimately the reason why we have been able to form such strong bonds with each other. Over the years, we have had countless experiences that have made our class closer. We've become closer during the field days in elementary school. Nothing builds bonds quite like a game of puzzle war, followed by blue raspberry snow cones. In middle school, many field trips to aquariums, museums, science centers brought us all closer. While the museums were fun, we all know that the bus rides were the best part. At the end of 8th grade, we all found a stage together, kind of like tonight, to mark the end of our middle school years and the beginning of our high school one. But in high school, things became a little different. We started taking classes at other grades, joining different sports and clubs, and some of us even spent our days at those hats. While we formed new bonds, our old ones remained strong. These connections with each other have allowed us to enjoy triumph, but have also allowed us to remain strong in the face of tragedy. Our bonds, our friendships, our sense of community have weathered it all, proving that they are fundamentally unbreakable. Class of 2011, it is important to remember that tonight is not the end. Rather, it is just the beginning. I know this is said often at graduation, but it bears repeating because it's true. Tomorrow we will wake up for the first time as high school graduates. As some will say, it is the first school day of the rest of our lives. But this begs the question, what will we do with the rest of our lives? The truth is, none of us really know. I mean, most of us are going to college. Some of us are entering the workforce, and a few are going into the military. But I can't say concretely where any of us will be in 10 years. One of the most frustrating things about life, yet exciting, is that our future is not set in stone. While we cannot control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond. We can choose to let our adversity strengthen us rather than weaken us. We can choose to let our challenge motivate us rather than discourage us. And we can choose the magnitude of our success. Class of 2011, as we embark on a new journey, I want you to remember several things. Remember that just because we are no longer in high school does not mean that we are no longer students. We will remain students for the rest of our lives, but we will continue to learn from the world around us. Life is one of our greatest teachers. Also, remember that only you can determine your future. So make the right decisions, and you will have a future greater than you could ever imagine. But most of all, remember where you've come from. Remember the bonds that you have built for the past 13 years. The relationships among us have made us who we are today. It is through these relationships that we have learned some of life's greatest lessons. By forgetting where we've come from, we are forgetting part of ourselves. So class of 2011, as our lives go off in different directions, continue to keep in touch with each other. We will always be Snowball High School's class of 2011, and we will always be a community. Thank you for all the memories and best wishes for the future. In 1912, John S. McMaster created the Old Home Prize with the intention of encouraging students to write about the rich cultural history and heritage of the Eastern Shore. Mr. McMaster spent his childhood in the Worcester County area. Though he left as he grew up, he never relinquished his love for the shore and created this prize as an appreciatory gesture. At commencement, one graduating senior is given the honor of receiving this award. The graduating senior must be recognized as summa cum laude in the class and is chosen for the number and extent of their extracurricular activities. The recipient of the award presents an original essay on a topic related to the Eastern Shore. Tonight's recipient has gone above and beyond what is expected of him both academically and extracurricularly. He has been an active member of several sports teams, including being the captain of both the soccer and tennis teams. He has been a participant in Students Against Destructive Decisions, Legal Interns, and Skills USA. Additionally, he has served in many leadership positions, including the president of Math Club, vice president of the National Honor Society, and the executive treasurer in the Student Government Association. This, combined with his academic achievements, earned him the prestigious Gates Millennium Scholarship, which is a full tuition scholarship to any school of his choice. I'm sure success will continue to follow him as he heads off to Penn State with the intent to study aerospace engineering. Tonight it is my privilege to introduce this year's Old Home Prize recipient, Mr. Harun Shabir Chaudhry.
Good evening, everybody. What are those long metal buildings? Those are the words my dad uttered when he first laid his eyes upon a chicken house. Little did he know that these long metal buildings would be something he would become much more familiar with in the years to come. After several more dim questions that anybody from the city would ask, my dad risked everything to move his family to the Eastern Shore to run a chicken farm. He figured that not only was chicken farming a good investment to make, but that the Eastern Shore was a much better place to raise children than a city like Brooklyn, New York. Fortunately, both of his assumptions turned out to be true. Moving from Brooklyn, New York to the Eastern Shore was a huge culture shock, to say the least. But I think the move really helped me explore the ups and downs of both areas. One thing that I've noticed about the Eastern Shore is that everyone knows everything about everyone else. Sometimes people know things about you a week before you find out for yourself. The concept of a stranger was very easy for me to grasp while living in Brooklyn, but on the Eastern Shore, a stranger is about as rare as an albino Loch Ness monster. This is great for two reasons. It makes the community much closer as a whole, and secondly, you can always count on having a nice conversation with somebody you know before leaving your local Walmart. Another great thing about the Eastern Shore is that you get to appreciate the more important things in life. The city life really absorbs you in the get rich or die trying mode, but you lose touch with what life is really about. And life isn't all about money, although it's really nice to have. Life's about having fun and progressing simultaneously. This is really hard to do in a place like Brooklyn, New York, but sometimes we take for granted how good we have it on the Eastern Shore. And talking about taking things for granted, last week I realized how many of us take the Ocean City Beach for granted. As I was talking to a financial advisor at Penn State University, we got engaged in a conversation about how different the atmospheres are in Snow Hill, Maryland, and State College, Pennsylvania. The financial advisor then asked me a question. She asked me how I like the Ocean City Beach. I explained to her how it's a staple of the area where we live, but it gets boring after a while. The financial advisor then told me a story about her coworker who had just died a year prior to my visit. Her coworker had a very small dream in life, and she wished to accomplish it before she passed away. Her dream was to see the ocean and spend a day at the beach. Unfortunately, she passed away without ever having a glimpse of the ocean. That story really taught me an important lesson. That lesson is to see the world with fresh eyes once in a while, because we can't let ourselves take many blessings we have for granted. In fact, one thing that I absolutely hated about the Eastern Shore during my early years here were chickens. These hideous creatures were nightmares to me because I had to see, and not to mention smell them all the time. Sometimes I was infuriated by the fact that my dad had chosen such an unattractive job as his profession. But as I grew older, I realized more and more of how much of a blessing in disguise these chickens were. Not only were they really tasty when covered with breadcrumbs and deep fried, but they also played an incredibly important role in changing my family's financial situation over the years. There lies the most important reason that the Eastern Shore is such a wonderful place to live. It provides opportunity to those that need it. And since Snow Hill's inception from 1686 to today, several different families have established thriving families from generation to generation in our town of Snow Hill. The Purnells, the Shockleys, the Gordys, and several other families have been testament to what a family can achieve in this town. I like to think of the Eastern Shore as a fertile place in a couple of different ways. Not only is it fertile in terms of its ability to aid in the growth of crops, but it's also fertile for families in raising the generations to come. Of course, the times are changing, and the world is becoming much more industrialized. For the first time, more people are living in cities than in rural areas. Brooklyn, New York is called home by 2.4 million people. Snow Hill, Maryland is called home by a little less than 2,400 people. But you know what? I would choose quality over quantity any day. The Eastern Shore has really served many families well, including my own. It will forever and always be proudly known as our old home. Thank you. Under the direction of Mr. Stephen Boyd, it gives me the great pleasure to introduce the Snow Hill High School Ensemble.